Hello, everybody. It's Liam and Chiralex. Say hello, Valerie.
Hi.
In today's video, we are going to be looking at the new death spells and a couple of the most notable changes coming, I believe, in the spring update pretty soon. Now, this is a creator week. I'll put it up on screen right now. Basically, it's like they did in the last update, where they gave out all these exclusive teasers to the community. So I will be covering those every day here on the channel and, bringing you guys the information that is most relevant and important. So in today's video, we'll be reviewing the death teasers, both the fusion formulas and the, normal spells that are getting changed in Arc 3 and 4. Okay, so the first one I want to look at here is going to be the new Kisma's Curse, I believe it's called. Right here, it is the Death 4-pip Shad spell. Now, keep in mind, this is now going to be one Shadow Pip. It is no longer two Shadow Pips like it's been the past, year or two, I want to say now. So they are reverting it back to one Shad, which will probably feel a lot better for everybody. Now, obviously, looking at bottom path, Kisma's Curse, it's a lot worse than, what we're used to in Live Realm. The damage, obviously, is a lot worse. But the utility is actually really, really good. And I think this is probably the best spell Death is going to be getting in this update. I'll say that right off the bat here. It's a really good 4-pip, one shad, hit, and 245 blades. Really good to combo with. Especially if they do decide to keep poison in the game, this spell is gonna absolutely fry people, insane buffs to death. Keep in mind, guys, with this whole one shad thing, this is going to apply to every school. It's not just a death nerf, it's going to be a nerf to essentially every school. However, the net of this will essentially be that Storm and Fire are better because obviously they have higher damage for pips, and schools that got a lot of value from extra damage per pip, like death, balance, ice, life, it'll be a bit of a net nerf to them. And I believe the Shad's value is going into the actual utility now and not the damage, right? So again, Wiz is kind of doubling down on this whole counter Wiz meta that they're putting forward. Real quick though, I do think this is good for the game because again, your school's actually going to start feeling like your school because schools have kind of all, felt the same for quite some time now. Most notably, this will really slow down the pace of things and the meta, which is great. So in terms of balancing in the meta, I think this is a good change and I'm really excited to get my hands on it and see what happens. Okay, next up we have Ghost Blade. So this is basically like the Storm Fusion, but it's essentially you going death into life. So basically they're just giving you more options to weave into. This doesn't really solve any problems in the game, right? I guess you could weave into life or storm now for PvE players, but chances are you probably already did the weaving into storm, and this is no different than the storm blade, so it doesn't really do anything. I guess they're trying to make things more diverse, but people have already chose what they want to weave into, and switching weaves is already so punishing. Players aren't going to do that, so again, kind of like a nothing burger here. The next up, we have a Drowned Amplify. Now, I like these spells a lot, actually. I think they're absolutely terrible, but they're actually really, really cool. The look and the art, really cool. Some of the best looking auras in the game, but they're not good. You know what I mean? Why would you spend one pip on an aura right here when it stabilize and brace are simply 0 pips? It makes no sense. Maybe in PvE, if you're dual schooling at a lower level, these could serve some purpose, but in terms of advanced content and PvP, probably not going to serve a lot of purpose, you know what I mean? Next up, you have Skeletal Raider. So this is a fusion between Locust Swarm and Skeletal Pirate. So right away, the spell isn't really going to get used because no death is going to run Locust Swarm. Not practical. Pirate is part of the game, but Locust Swarm, you're not going to do that. So no matter how good the card is, it's not going to be used because Locust Swarm, you're not running that. But it's going to hit and then give you a negative aura that's a 50% buff for 4 rounds if the opponent has a heal over time on them. So think of Goat Monk, you know, rebirth, that kind of thing. Not a terrible card at face value, but when you take into account, you know, reality and, you know, practicality, all that shit, it's just not good. Because the second spell, the Locust Swarm, nobody's packing that because it's bad on that school. People are packing Pirate, but you're not going to pack the Locust, right? Next up, we have Clammy Ghoul. I actually think this spell is not terrible, so it's going to do an Ice Drain, pretty cool. Then Gambit 2 weaknesses on the opponent for 45 blades on you, death 45 blades. Now, this spell looks really, really cool. You check out Sin Rider's video on it. It's really, really cool looking spell. But this is Ghoul, which again, amazing, crazy spell. And Ice Colossus, which again, the formula, the fusion, this is what kind of makes it a problem, right? Is the fact that nobody's gonna run Colossus on a death. It's just not gonna happen. You know, like Ghoul's part of the meta. Colossus, nobody's gonna do that. You know, and this Clammy Ghoul spell, again, face value, it's a really good card. But it's always that second spell, like no one's gonna use that. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not good. Let's get into a couple of the interesting changes. So we have Snack Attack, which is going to steal 4 blades and then hits. So this is a 5 pip, really cheap blade counter. I think for deaths, you had to spend like what, 7 or 8 pips to counter before. But now 5 pips to counter 4 isn't a terrible deal. In theory, you could counter blades and set up your own gambit. So I'm kind of thinking like death versus myth matchup. If the myth blades at all, you could steal those blades and then gambit them with a Jin or something, which could be actually pretty cool. Might be worth packing 1 or 2 for that matchup. Next up, we have a very, very important one in the meta, which is going to be Grim Reader. Thank God the spell is getting nerfed. This spell was absolutely insane. The best shad in game ever since Lemuria came out, like what, 3 years ago. Absolutely insane. So basically, the base default one, tier 1, it's out. Thank God. And the bottom path, obviously the damage is being lowered because again, the damage is insanely high for a death, but you actually get the chromatic weaknesses getting buffed a little bit. Now, again, I will say this is a net nerf for death because you're losing a lot of damage, which is primarily what people did Reader for in the first place. And the chromatic weaks are only about 5% stronger and still only 2. So I mean, it's still going to be a decent card, you know what I mean? But it's not really going to be OP anymore. Next up, we have Winged Sorrow. This is a fan favorite spell, one of my favorite cards, but it's been literally unusable for years. But basically, now it's going to be a hit and negative aura. That's an infection aura for 6 rounds. Now, this, I would say, is not terrible, but the issue always with negative auras and stuff like that is people can just click the brace card and just completely get rid of that, you know? So you might send a Winged Sorrow against a life, but every life packs like 9 braces, right? So they'll just brace over top of that, and yeah, it's kind of a waste, you know what I mean? Next up, we have Lulu. So this is going to hit and then put a negative aura on the opponent. That is a minus 30% for 4 rounds. Again, not really a terrible spell. We'll have to see how players do with these spells in the meta. Like I said, I think probably people are going to pack like 2 Readers and 2 Kismas. You might pack a Lulu or 2, but I think just going for like a Surge or a Strike play is probably going to be better in this upcoming meta, unless they also nerf those spells. Next up, for Death Scion, we are getting a base damage nerf on it, and we're getting a buff to the actual Gambit itself, so I think this is really, really good. Something I am very interested in to see this next update is cards like Myth Jin, you know? Because we talked about this with the developers some time ago, that the base hits on Gambits, like spells like Death Scion or Myth Gen, like they're just too good, you know what I mean? So I'm really curious and wondering if we're going to see a spell like Myth Gen not really be used as much as a big one-shot finisher anymore, because to my knowledge, all of the gambits here, their base hits are going down by a little bit. And in terms of the base myth gen, that's going to be a very, very big deal. So I'm really hoping and praying that myth gen gets like at least like a 100 damage nerf or something, bro, because I hate that card so much. Alright, y'all, so that's everything I got for you today. Tomorrow, Monday will be life, Tuesday will be myth, Wednesday will be storm, Thursday will be fire, Friday will be ice, and balance will be Saturday. So typically what I've seen, just judging off the last update, once they did these creator teasers, like when I got mine for PvP in like the last update, I think they put test realm out like 2 weeks after this. So we should see test realm probably in like, yeah, 2 weeks from now, I would say. So really looking forward to that and, seeing how the meta changes and what else is going on. But if you guys enjoyed this video...
And who has the myth teaser?
What, Val? Huh?
And who has a myth teaser?
What? You want me to include that, Valerie? I don't even know what I just said.
Who has a myth teaser?
Cheer Valex has the myth teaser.
Me! Woohoo!
Yeah, Cheer Valex, the storm main, got the myth spells, y'all. You heard it here first. I don't know why they did not give her storm.
I got the myth teasers. Woohoo!
Yeah, at least they got Zephyr,
yeah,
right? Zephyr having storm spells makes sense, but like you or I should have gotten the storm spells logically, but that's okay. Everything else is pretty good this time around, except for the storm spells. But anyways, y'all, hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and a sub. Okay, bye guys.